All right. Hello. I hope everyone's doing great. Welcome to another episode of Ed Talks, I suppose. I don't know what to name my podcast, but this is where I invite my personal contacts, my network, people who are in the field, in the industry, and I invite them to talk about topics that are relevant to what we are learning in class. So today I have with me a very special guest. Her name is Visha Afzal, and she has been in sales and a little bit also into marketing for the past 3 or 4 years. And what makes her very relevant and also very unique is that she has been working with a globally dispersed team and she has been working remotely. So she has never worked in an actual office or interacted with the people face to face. And all her work is and even her clients are globally dispersed. So that was really interesting, and I thought I would invite her and ask her how she deals with problems like communication in dispersed teams, conflict resolution, negotiations, and how to deal with tough clients, how to answer questions, and all of that. So I will let her introduce herself a little bit as well. Hey, Visha, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's not like I was forced to do this or whatever.
Right, right, right. Yes, your family is in absolutely no danger. Anyway, so how's the weather wherever you are?
Yeah, let's just say it's not good. We're struggling out here. And just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is, as you guys know, it's Visha. I have been a sales manager. My experience in sales has been for more than 4 years, contrary to what Sir Hisham just said. It's more than 4 years, and yes, I work with global teams, and my clients are mostly US based um, professionals, and our service is mainly like career services. But yeah, the reason I'm here is not to sell you guys my services because let's be honest, Sir Hisham can't really afford it with his peanut sized salary. So, what I am here to talk to you guys about is yes, a most important part of any remote job or just a basic life skill too, I would say, which is communications. So, yeah, let's just jump right into it. Communication is always seen as something where you have to be the most confident person in the room, or you have to speak without hesitation, or you just, need to be really self-assured. It's not really that. Like, for example, let's take Sir Hisham's example. He's not a very good communicator. Half the time, it doesn't make sense. But what he is good at is that he is going to help you guys out when you're having difficulty managing team projects, like seeing eye to eye during group projects. He is good at aligning your coursework with what your future goals are, and navigating classrooms. That's really what good communication means.
Right, so I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about your background and your transition into sales because you have a very, very different experience and background, educationally speaking, and then you ended up in sales. How did that happen?
So, viewers' discretion. My background is also in English, and I know you have your background in English as well. And it's considered like this is a path set out for us that we have to become teachers, lecturers, professors. But not all of us are interested in just waking up every day and bullying students. So, I knew that that was not the path for me. I really did enjoy talking to people. And honestly, this job just fell into my lap, you could say, sort of. Wasn't really planning on applying it. Even the night of my onboarding, I was just stressed out, thinking about how I've never done sales. I can never do sales either. But yeah, this is just some motivation to you guys that if you stick around for a little bit, you will become an expert in the field nonetheless. So, seems the case with any kind of subject you're pursuing, even if your heart is not fully set on it, but it's good for your future and you want to test it out, if you stick around, you are gonna start to appreciate it, if not even like it. So, same has been my transition into sales. I just enjoyed the aspect of just trying to make small talk with them and stuff. So, yeah, just relationship building is something that came easy to me. And when I pursued this job, it just that skill set strengthened further, and I found out this was my true calling.
Right. And okay. So do you see this trend in the job market where now employers are appreciate people with diverse backgrounds or multifunctional backgrounds where they haven't just done one thing their entire careers or lives or in their education or are able to transition into new avenues and roles?
So it's going to be dependent on industry to industry, I would say. Like, for example, if you are applying for software engineering jobs with like customer service background, it's not going to be that, you're not going to be the ideal candidate for the job, of course, but what you could do as some career advice, if you have a customer service background and you want to go be a software engineer, you could start with a middle point first. Like, for example, maybe go into technical sales, learn how people are selling the product, and that is going to give you the information of what the customer's needs are with respect to the product. And then when you are actually a software engineer, you would be able to produce products that align with those customer requirements better. So that's a point you could use to your advantage. How? Because of the fact that you have dealt with technical clients one on one, you could be sort of their spokesperson. You have experience being their confidant, so that enables you to do a better job. So when you're framing your career narrative in that way, yes, people are open to um, doing a tad bit more experimentation with their employees, but again, branding matters in that aspect. And like you cannot just completely switch jobs without going through that middle step first.
Okay, so let's talk about virtual workplaces.
Mhm.
I know you haven't really worked in an actual office situation, but you do work with clients who come from very diverse backgrounds. So is this like a norm? Do you think this thing will catch on and workplaces will become more and more virtual, or at least hybrid spaces? Do you see that happening in the near future?
Absolutely, especially for tech, I would say it is pretty common for foreign employers to hire tech professionals from places like Pakistan and India. So, yeah, for your students specifically, remote working environments are going to be prevalent. As far as other professions are concerned, I would say ever since COVID happened, remote workplaces are the norm. So, yeah, it's here to stay.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the struggles of being in a virtual workplace where also your team is very dispersed. They might not be there to answer your questions. Some maybe even in different time zones altogether, and some may have different working hours. So how is that? How difficult is it to do?
The first struggle I would say when you're working in a remote environment is the fact that primarily most of the communication you're doing with your team is through emails. It's like basically written communication. So when you are doing written communication, it's like there's always a chance of sounding too curt, and your tone, your personal tone, your kind of the nuances that you have in your tone, they're not going to be able to understand that in written communication. So the first error you run into is when you're giving instructions, how really to make it sound like it's not an order or it's not like something that demands immediate attention. If I don't like you, I'm gonna read your email in a very evil, witchy tone.
Hmm.
So that's just what my preconceived images of you. And I personally struggled with it initially, and I ran into some trouble as well with my colleagues where they thought that even though we are at the same level of hierarchy, it's as if I am trying to act as their supervisor. So yeah, these kind of things happen, and it's going to sound really obvious, but the feedback that I got from my manager at the time was to just add a couple of emojis to your text. And one thing I tend to follow is that I try to make it like you're typing a response, and one thing we do is we type it and we send it. Don't do that. You type it and you reread it, and then you add a little bit of, like try to make it not sound too harsh, like Sir Hasham, obviously, and then try to send your answer. Yeah.
All right. So this brings me to AI and how we are increasingly using AI in all of our written communication. So, do you think AI has made our life or your life easier, or is it a recipe for disaster? Because uh, how much do you rely on it? First of all, let's explore that a little bit.
One thing I would say is yes, AI is there to make your life more feasible, but you can only use AI to brainstorm, but not to draft proper communication. So it's not like you will ask AI to answer an email for you. You will ask AI to give you some pointers on what you could say to this person and then draft it yourself. So that, and then secondly, the output of AI is always going to depend on how smart your input is. So you have to be really good at giving it better prompts rather than just pasting your client's message and asking it to reply to it.
Okay, so specifically talking about workplace communication, why should I learn this? Why is this something that you would still recommend that a student learn before they go into the industry? Like I said, AI can solve a lot of our problems for us now. So, do you think this is, um do you encounter problems with AI generated communications, or is it getting better and better and we don't really need to learn this anymore?
Okay, first of all, like I said initially, communication, it's like a life skill you're learning. So it's not necessary that you're only doing it in a corporate setting.
Hmm.
And so, it's like when your best friend is dating an absolute loser, you can't go up to them and be like, hey, dump that loser.
Yeah,
But you're gonna go up to them because that's literally gonna ruin your own friendship with them. You're
for
gonna
sure.
go
Yeah.
up to them, you're gonna go up to them, you're gonna tell them how your like how the relationship has changed over the years, how you feel like they're not their best selves anymore. And so you're going to make them realize it by themselves. And that's not something that, you just say and it's going to magically happen. So although it's not necessary that they're going to take heed to your advice, but your delivery really matters. And yes, you can take notes on that too. But your delivery is really the core function of communication, that you're understanding the the person you're communicating with, their needs, and then personalizing your message, right? So when you're using AI to do that, it's a bot. It's not going to be able to do justice to your client. Like let's say you're working with a tech client who has asked you to create a website for you. They don't know what the requirements of this website is, what their audience demographic is. And so that personal touch is always going to be missing. And you will find it more so now that people do think that the human touch is missing and they want services where they can speak to someone rather than just having an AI chatbot talk to you all day.
Mm. Okay. Right. And let's talk about virtual workplaces a little bit more about that. How prevalent are miscommunications in virtual situations? How often do you encounter them, and are they disastrous? Do they slow things down? Do they hurt the company? Do they hurt the professional?
Yeah, for sure. So if I were to give you an example, people like the reason miscommunications occur is because people have different definitions of what success looks like.
Hmm.
So me being, or let's say your students being technical people, they're going to be super focused on um, taking their time to work on reducing bugs, reducing process inefficiencies and technical inefficiencies in any of the project that they're working on. But me as a non-technical person, my focus would be, okay, how quickly can we get this project done so I can bring you my next client? So our success, the definition of success that we both have is going to be super different.
Hmm.
So if I come up to you as a technical person that you're like, I talk to this person who needs a website done, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's super simple. How I'm translating it, oh, it's going to be super quick. So that's what I'm communicating to my client. And that is the core um, gap where miscommunications happen. So, and the fix is super simple. Just ask more follow-up questions.
Yeah.
When you are asking those follow-up questions about, you being a technical person, you're going to ask me more questions about, okay, what is the timeline that they have in mind? Do they need a proper fix? Do they just want a temporary or a proper, like permanent fix? Do they just want me to troubleshoot it, or do they want me to diagnose the root cause of it? Me being the non-technical person is going to ask whether, like, I'm going to ask the technical person whether if we add more people to the project, it is going to cause more disruptions or what. So
Hmm.
really, internal collaboration is even more important when you are dealing with clients. So, like I said, when the successes, we're defining success differently, we are interpreting the problem differently as well. And so, just by asking those follow up questions, we can reach a conclusion that, okay, the client is not really asking for a permanent fix. They're losing revenue right now, so they just want us to come up with a quick fix, and that's what matters. So that is what the technical team is going to deliver on, and then we're going to promise future follow-ups or whatever. So that is how, when both of the people, both of the teams are asking follow-up questions, reaching a defined scope of success rather than just assuming. That's how you avoid any sort of misinterpretations and miscommunications.
Right. Okay. So also, I want to talk a little bit about how common my actual question was. Is it very common for people to misunderstand you? Is it more dangerous when you are physically dispersed and working in a virtual environment? And how do you deal with that?
It is definitely more common in remote settings because, let's be honest, I agree with people in your class who are going to be like, we cannot ask questions. Like every time I come up with a question, I'm like, it sounds super dumb. I just want to keyword myself. But with experience, I will tell you that more than you regret asking that question, you will regret not asking that question. So in remote settings, it's sort of like if you're doing a task in front of someone and you are people can supervise you, they can see where you exactly you went wrong, they can come step in and help you fix the problem. But in remote situations, that's not the case. There are so many times I have had hands-on experience where colleagues would just stare at their screen for hours, figuring out what the solution is going to be when it's a really simple solution. They just need a specific link to troubleshoot it or whatever. But because they're afraid to ask for resources, that problem just keeps on continuing and even becomes even worse because now we've spent a lot of time on it, we've missed deadlines, and so it becomes a bigger problem.
Right. So the key takeaway is that ask questions and ask them frequently if you don't understand things.
Yeah,
So I would assume that this is a good sort of strategy for not only virtual working environments, but also for
yeah,
in-person or, real ones as we call them. Anyway, okay.
aside from fake ones.
Sorry.
You mean aside from fake ones, we remote people are creating fake scenarios?
Sure. Sure.
Okay.
Uh, Not a great joke. Anyway, moving on. moving
Like
on.
your existence. Mhm.
Moving on. Let's talk about conflict in the workplace. And very interestingly, okay, conflict is a part of every workplace. Whenever you are working in teams, I'm sure my students are already very aware of it. Whenever you work in small groups, small teams, whether you are a seasoned professional or a newbie who's just started their career or a student, we like certain people, we like working with certain people, and other people we just cannot stand for the life of us, right? So in student life, it is still kind of possible to avoid pairing up with those people, but in professional lives, sometimes you just can't, do without it. You are either assigned to a team where you don't really see eye to eye with people, or you have a very tough boss who's very demanding, and you don't really like working with them because their working style is very old school, and you are Gen Z. Enough said. So,
Sure.
so how do you deal with that? How do you deal with conflict?
Short answer, try to avoid people like Sir Hisham. Long answer, yes, conflicts are a part of basically every workspace and every relationship, even. You're going to run into conflicts with your friends. Um, but it's like, so this is going to sound really, really self-centered, egotistical, just like, Sir Hisham's personality. But
At least I
try
have one.
try to see the other person as someone beneath you, I would say. If you are if you are seeing them in that light, that I am much better than this person, you're gonna immediately walk out of that conflict without investing yourself too much because the most basic thing that we do when we run into conflict is we associate personal connections to it. Oh, this was my friend. Oh, this colleague I knew for 4 years. How could they snitch on me in front of the supervisor? You're immediately associating personal connections to it. So just separate that personal connection, see them as a person beneath you, and it's going to be super easy.
Okay, I don't. Uh, okay, sure.
That
Um,
was a Gen Z answer too.
I wouldn't know anything about that. Um, and okay, let's talk about bridging sort of the. You've had a bad experience. You've had
Mhm.
a bit of a miscommunication. You've had a bit of say a little bit of a tiff.
Mhm.
Between your team, among your team members, or with your supervisor. How do you repair things? How do you keep a working relationship going? How do you create that win-win situation where, you're not losing too much, they're not losing too much, and you still have this working relationship going?
If I talk about myself, I just forget it. Like, I don't have the energy to hold grudges. And this is going to be your life when you step into the corporate situation. You're not going to care about half the things that happen at work when you're back home. So, the first advice would be to not think of your colleagues as your best friends, to not think of your supervisor who has your best interest at heart, and like I said, just separate yourself from that whole scenario. And one thing that we don't give too much credit to is giving people some space,
Hmm.
letting people cool off some steam. Because even you, if you are reacting in the heat of the moment, you're bound to say things that are going to worsen the situation.
Yeah.
And like, consider this scenario. If Sir Hasham asks you to just attend an exam on Sunday and or a class on Sunday, the first thing you're gonna think of is confronting him by saying, "Listen up, you old fart. You don't have a life. You cry yourself to sleep. Doesn't mean we all do. We got plans," which is a fair thing to say. But just because you are just because he is at a position of authority, you cannot really say that to him. And this is going to happen in your workplace. You are going to be working with people twice your age or half your age. You're going to be working in gender dominated industries. And because of this cultural setting that we have, we cannot really express um, negative feedback or confront people who are slightly older than us or who belong to a different gender. So, yeah, just the wisest thing would be to take your time off, let the situation calm itself, and then revisit because most of the time people are just going to forget it.
Right. So the thing I really liked about your response was that, try to think that it's not about me.
Mhm.
Like, it's not personal, it's not me. We tend to take things very personally. We tend to invest in them very personally, but, just dissociate from it and say, okay, this is not about me or who I am. This is just, what happens. Maybe they're also having a bad day. Maybe they also have some constraints. Maybe, try to look at it from other people's perspectives as well,
And
and
I
don't.
will repeat,
Yeah.
think of themselves as beneath you. Maybe their mom didn't love them. Maybe their dad beat the crap out of them. Jokes on them.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, try not to bring your personal baggage to work. That's what they say. You leave it at the door, right?
You didn't take heed
That's
to that advice, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I try to, but it does seep through. So, you're only human. But that's, I think, a part of becoming a professional, that you learn not to do those behaviors, to fall into those pitfalls over and over again. Yeah. Okay. So, my next question would be about, we've talked about team dynamics, and we know that there is always going to be conflict there. And you talked about email communication. How often are you writing emails as a professional, by the way?
Daily.
Yeah, all the time,
Yeah,
right? Okay,
all
so
the
this
time.
is this is something that not only you do, but I suppose a lot of people in the tech space also do, and they are writing emails all the time. And
Yep.
because email is usually a medium where there is not much room for personality, miscommunications are very common there. Why, how do you address that problem within your teammates and with clients as well?
The first thing that you need to do for good written communication is, I would say, make it seem like you're actually hearing the person, you know what their problem is,
Right.
and then you're addressing it. So
Mm,
don't use we words. Don't
mm,
make it seem like they're talking to a whole team.
mm,
Um, don't make it seem like very passive aggressive. Like, don't absolutely don't use passive language,
mm,
passive terms in your emails at all. Just make it
mm.
like, instead of this has been done for you, say I will do this for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, just avoid passive language, make sure they're feeling heard. And yeah, a quick strategy that I do follow is that I will always take down some rough notes of what this person is trying to say, and then I will jump on drafting the email for them.
Okay.
That just summarizes what this person is saying. And this helps with your own understanding of whether you even understood what the core requirement was.
Right. Okay, so we talked about, or I wanted to ask you about tough clients to deal with. So, as students, they're going to handle or going to have to handle tough situations when they go to their professional lives. For example, during job interviews, there are some interviews that are very tough, or clients that are hard to work with. So, what do you think is a good strategy for handling tough questions and situations?
I mean, I'm sure your students already have experience with that, working with you. So really, this is the worst that could happen, you guys. It's only going to be an easy path on from here. He's preparing
You're
you for
welcome,
the.
by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, almost all of us have had those experiences already at our university, or just dealing with difficult situations in our own personal lives as well. And really, that's the only strategy you need to carry into the workplace, that nothing's like unsolvable, I guess. You do not have to assign your own personal worth to a mess up that you made. And yeah, it's a very philosophical answer, has nothing to do with sales or like the professional life, but it is what it is. You just gotta, push through sometimes.
Okay. And okay, sure. And how do you negotiate situations? Like, okay, there is always room for negotiation, or you're not gonna have your way or what you want to do unless you learn how to navigate and negotiate out of tricky situations. Whether you're with a client, whether with your boss, or whether you're just interviewing and you want to ask for a better salary, right? So
Mhm.
what tips could you give them? What negotiation looks like when we talk about communication skills?
One thing we forget when we're in negotiations is that this situation, I have to present an alternative for the negotiation. I can't just go up to a negotiation, ask them to meet my terms. It's not a
Yeah.
win-win situation that you're going in there. There's no winner or loser. There is just a shared common ground. So, like the example I gave earlier, if you just go up to Sir Hasham and be like, "No, you don't have a life. I have plans. I'm not going to be able to attend university on Sunday." You're really the losing side, I would say. You're not doing uh, it well. What you could do is just go up to him and be like, "Hey, this is an interesting project that you've assigned us, but given our previous coursework, it's not going to be able to be fulfilled and done justice in just 24 hours. So I would request an extended deadline of a week." You are giving an alternative option. You're not letting the other person make the decision of what would be the best for you. You're telling them what's best for you. And then they could reach a common ground. Maybe Sarah Jam says, you know what, 7 days is a bit more. Max I could do is 5 days.
Right. Right. So here's my understanding of this. One, don't take things too personally. It's not always about you. In fact, most of the times it's not really about you. So don't take it too
I mean, I
personally.
could have a bad day. I could
Yeah.
have a bad day. I could come in the office and take it out on you, which Sir
Hmm.
Hisham almost always does.
Sir.
So yeah, you don't have to associate yourself with that.
Right. And secondly, always, if you're coming with preconceived notions, and if you are not willing to give an inch to the other
Yeah.
person, that then you're not a very good negotiator. You have to take a step back. You have to give or offer something in order to gain something from that situation. So always have that can do sort of mentality. Okay, yeah, sure, I can do this, but I would need this. And then thirdly, we invited an expert over to one of our events recently that took place. And he said a thing that I still remember. He said, do whatever you're doing, whatever project you have, or whatever idea you have, do defend it, do stand by it, but do not fall in love with it, right?
Yeah.
Always have that attitude that, oh, okay, if three people are telling me that this is not a good idea and this cannot work in this way, then don't be stubborn and don't just say no, they don't know anything and I'm going to do it. Have that attitude that, okay, it's not about me, it's not very personal. Maybe they have a point, maybe I should listen to them, maybe I should change a few things around. So like I keep telling you guys, there's never a perfect scenario, never a perfect audience, never a perfect stage. So you kind of deal or do or work with the tools that you have, not the tools that you want, right?
Sure, but I would also say that when it comes to negotiations, you also have to keep in mind whether the stakeholders' input is really important or
Hmm.
not. Like, say you're working on a project and some of your friends or your ex-teachers are telling you that it's not a good idea, but you are super passionate about it, you wouldn't want to completely skip it. You could talk to
Hmm.
your supervisor about maybe how you could give it a traditional touch, what sort of resources you might need to
Hmm.
explore that idea. But if their say doesn't matter, then stick to your guns.
Right. Right. And yeah, I mean, you sometimes you are in a position to leverage more out of a situation. Sometimes you're not. So sure, that is also true for technical situations where many times the client's sort of understanding is very different from your own, but since they are paying for it, so
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes. And how do you make somebody realize something that you're just not refusing to see as a client, for example? I imagine you just do this all the time because you work with professionals that have way more experience than you do. So
Yeah.
if they are stubborn, if they can't really get past something, how do you deal with it?
Honestly, what you said, just have can-do attitude. Tell them what the trade-offs are going to be.
Hmm.
That if you need expedited work, it might compromise quality. Tell them, like, set right expectations upfront. Be upfront about things that
Hmm.
might get lost into translation,
Hmm.
or say if you're working on a website fix, there might be technical inefficiencies or bugs later down the line.
Yeah.
So communicate those upfront, and it's the client's choice to make the decision what their priority is. So like I
Hmm.
said, it's about understanding the client's priorities and preferences. If
Yeah.
they just want, if they don't want to lose revenue and they just want this to be fixed as soon as possible, then you do a half-assed job.
Okay. All right. Um, okay. Finally, let's talk about dealing with angry clients.
Mhm.
How do you diffuse that situation? How do you deal with angry clients? How do you do that? I believe you have an example for us.
I am dealing with an angry client right now. I'm pretty sure after the session, I'm gonna get a good hearing. I'm gonna be told how I was just making jokes, there was no content shared. But what I am going to tell him is students need this. Students need to be able to say what they can't say directly to you. So that is really what you have to do with clients as well. Make sure that the client is feeling heard. You're going to be like, I appreciate you sharing your candid feedback with me.
Hmm.
This is what my perspective is. Like the reasoning behind why this happened is because XYZ, but I understand how that might look like to you, being someone whose project is delayed. I always have a good reasoning that there were so many different factors that we had to take into consideration while working on this project. So the deadline was unreasonable. But you being on the other end, I see where you're coming from. What we could do now, and then give that solution. What we could do now is that we could prepare this draft for you that you can just send off as soon as possible. And then we could work on continuous edits or revisions, whatever the client
Hmm.
needs, to
Hmm.
come up with the final version.
Hmm.
So that your writer, like the person you are working with, your internal team, they're
Hmm.
not exhausting themselves over a single client, because that's something you do have to realize. Your client's not your God. You have to consider what is an unreasonable ask and give them the alternative of how, like, what the next steps could be if we were working towards a resolution. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's the client's decision to proceed.
Right. So, do you have a practical example for us to show,
I
for
will answer.
example, an angry email from a client and how you would deal with it?
Let me try to share my screen here.
Right.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is an angry email Sir Hisham sent me.
So, if you could
And
zoom it a bit, I think
uh-huh,
that would help a bit. Yeah. If you zoomed it.
let me read it out once as well for the students.
Hmm.
So here's what he's saying. He's saying, Dear Visha, I am writing this email to share some serious concerns about your service delivery. First of all, the person who called me made me schedule a 90-minute call with them. I do not have time to tell you my life history when I have given you all the documents you asked me for. The writer kept pushing me and pitching me a different package when I had clearly told you what I wanted. Finally, the documents I was given were extremely underwhelming and did not represent the high level of quality and customization or personalization that I had been promised. This was a total waste of time. I would appreciate it if we ended our relationship here, and I would expect a complete refund.
Right.
Now, the of
If you
course,
could
this is a
zoom this a bit more, like maybe go 300% if you, yeah, because, yeah, yeah.
yes, some of us here are old farts who cannot see. Point noted.
You have 10,000 emails in your inbox? What are you doing?
Doing corporate life.
Right.
Okay, here. Okay. So first of all, this is, like I said, a super personal and an aggressive email. When clients will email you, they will email you with a lot of passion, because the service that you're providing them could be super personal. Like, for example, if I talk about my own service, it's resume writing or career services like interview prep and salary negotiations. This is someone's entire career that we're dealing with. So they are going to be super personal about it. They are going to think that it wasn't done justice. So the first thing you have to do is to make sure that you're eliminating those personal aspects from the email. So the first thing that they're saying is they don't want a 90-minute call.
Hmm.
What I will say to that is, first of all, something like, thank you for sharing your candid feedback. I cannot type as fast. Thank you for sharing your candid feedback. And then I am going to tell them, like, make them feel good about this aspect. I'm going to tell them the 90-minute call is really to do justice to their entire life's work. And without it, it might feel lackluster. So I
Hmm.
am telling them exactly what the trade-off is going to be, that it's going to be a super generic thing that they're going to get. But then
Right.
in the same vein, I am also going to tell them, if you want it that way, I can for sure work with the things you've already sent me and
Hmm.
create a draft.
Hmm.
So they understand the trade-off. They know that this is a very critical step in the process. But I'm not going to say this is how our service is, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you like we discussed, the can-do attitude should always
Mm,
be there. You
mm,
shouldn't just be like, hey, this is a part of my job.
mm.
And even if it is, like, to be quite honest, this is an integral part of my service, but I'm going to make the client feel that they have a say in it.
Yeah.
And as soon as they feel like, yeah, I call the shots, so
Mm,
you're stroking their ego and getting your own way.
mm.
And then the writer kept pushing me and pitching me a different package. Now, this is something I will deal with internally because this is where, if the writer is being very aggressive with trying to sell something else, then that is on the team.
Mm.
So I am gonna apologize if they felt like the call was focused towards something else or whatever. And then I'm gonna ask the writer to just immediately stop any of the upsells, right? And then the documents I was given were extremely underwhelming and did not represent the high level of quality and customization or personalization that I had been promised. Now, this also seems like an internal error, but what is a dead giveaway is that they're very generic with
Yeah.
the description. If your client is coming up to you and saying, "Hey, the website's crap," that's not enough feedback for you. If
Yeah.
they're telling you website's taking too long to load,
Mm,
or uh, my SEO optimization is not that well, that's concrete feedback for you. That is what you can act upon. So this is a good way to detect whether this is just buyer's remorse. If the client is just feeling like they spent too much on something and they're just saying, yeah, no, cancel it. So here, what I'm gonna ask for is I'm gonna ask for more feedback about why, like, of course, reassure them that we are gonna be here to work with them as long as they're satisfied. But
mm,
what exactly is the problem?
mm.
That's asked, something we do want to ask Sir Hisham as well. And then this was a total waste of time, just
Yeah.
like how I feel right now. I would appreciate it if we ended our relationship here, and I would expect a complete refund. Now, here, I would again reassure them that I have the same interest as at heart, and if they feel like they need further adjustments, we are here to assist them with it. Unlimited edits are going to be provided, yada yada yada.
But what is your success rate? Like, how many escalations or angry clients do end up realizing what you're saying is fine and then still work with you versus we're like, nah, I'm out of here.
Yeah, no, a lot of the times people do agree to find a common ground. So first of all, I would say that you can never de-escalate a situation through written communication.
Hmm.
You have to get them on a call. You have to just do an in-person meeting, get them on a call, or do a video meeting with them. Because only if you're able to assign a face and just ठीक है बिल्ली नहीं बनना उनके आगे, but as long as you're able to communicate one-on-one with them, that, like I said, that human touch is really what's missing now in the corporate sector, and people do really value it. So
Hmm.
as long as you are able to tell them what your thought process was while you were doing it, and then help them see how this could be beneficial for them,
Hmm.
only then are you going to be able to kind of mediate the situation. And
Right.
that's really what we do with our clients as well. And yeah, a lot of the times, I would say 80% of the time, people are just with revisions and with better expectation setting, understanding what their core requirements are, they're able to um, continue the process.
Right. So if there are disagreements, conflicts, or angry clients or escalations, that's not the end of the world. That's not the end of your relationship with the client. In fact, it is a great opportunity for you to go there and shine and sort of fix the thing and maybe even win over the client and have them continue that relationship with you in the company, which would be a great, I think, thing. because the now that potentially somebody who would have been a disgruntled client is now a future ally, because the way you handle that situation, they're going to remember this, and they're maybe going to refer other people, or they're at least going to remember that they were heard by this company and not just um, yeah, they were heard. I can't remember the exact word I want to use. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's really what happens. People, like if I talk about sales, if I am the first point of contact that people have, more than my service, they're gonna purchase because of how much they liked me as a person,
Hmm.
because that's really how investments happen.
Yeah.
You have to speak your client's language, make them feel heard, yes, but also, like, say an escalation happened, and let's say my writer, for instance, they the client wasn't really a fan of how the writer dealt with a specific situation.
Yeah.
I am immediately going to step in as the mediator because they liked me initially. I am going to be the person who's going to get them back in our good books, possibly replace the writer, get
Hmm.
them to work with someone else. And yeah, so that first impression is what's going to help you mediate the situation later on down the line as well.
Right. 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 And we were talking about, how diverse the workplace has become, and we're working with the dispersed teams who come from very many different backgrounds. And you may not be working with people your own age, and you will definitely not be working with clients that your own age. So, do you see a generational aspect in it? Like, would you think um, older clients, how they think, and how these kids who are going to go into the industry, the clash in the way that they think, is that going to cause conflict, or is it going to be a problem?
Honestly, this is like when you go into the industry, you learn a little bit about buyer's persona, how people have specific mindset, and yes, you can assign like pricing constraints to people who are a bit older because like let's say younger folks, if they're thinking of pursuing a service, they're just gonna think of making their life easier. Like say, I don't want to stay up the entire night like doing a specific project, creating my own website. I don't want to stay up entire weeks just working on it. I'd rather outsource it to someone else and save myself the mental torture. But when it comes to older for folks, they're going to be like, nah, that's too costly. I'd rather spend time and energy doing it on my own rather than just pay that enormous amount. So it is sort of like an economical shift as well that comes into play. And usually, how you deal with it is if someone older is coming to you with that pricing constraint, you just have to make them feel like you are tweaking the process somewhat in their favor, whereas you're not really doing that. Like, for example, say you being the old fart are going to come up to me, hey, your resume writing service is super expensive. I'm not going to be able to afford it. I'm going to tell you, you know what, Hisham? I understand where you're coming from because if you were asking me to pay just $100 as well, I'm gonna think that that's a really expensive service, even though mine is like 6 times more than that. Even if you were asking me to pay $100, it would have been a lot for me if I was not seeing the return of investment. But say if you're paying $600 to me and I am giving you thrice or 4 times the revenue, then the investment makes sense in the long term, doesn't it? So I'm going to get buy-in from you first. Once I have your approval, then I'm sort of going to tweak the process for you. I'm going to tell you that you don't have to pay everything up front. you could do installments. So we're tweaking the installment plan for you. And I could tell you that I'm going to include unlimited edits into it. So that can do attitude that we talked about, that I'm going to make them feel like they're calling the shots and they're sort of tweaking this process and suiting it to their needs, whereas it's already a part of the service. I'm just making them feel a little bit more special.
Right. And sorry to jump back or loop back to the previous topic, but you do work with a lot of younger people, don't you? You work with a lot of people who we call Gen Z. What sort of challenges do you think they will face in the workplace, or what are the things that they struggle with the most when they join the workforce?
Generational gaps, of course, do exist. I would say Gen Z have a different work ethic than the previous generation. I am gonna think about, as a Gen Z, let's say, I'm gonna think about my emotions a little bit more, that this job is mentally draining, even if it pays $25,000 a year, sorry, a month, I'm not gonna do it. But that's not the case with the older generation. They're going to stick around. They're going to do all of that, take on that mental toll, because they're going to think that, yeah, no, I have people who are relying on me. I have this, whole family to feed. So that is something that I feel like is very prevalent in the market, where employers want young people on the team because they want new ideas. They want someone to be innovative. They want someone who can keep themselves up to date with the current market trends, like consider AI. Older people have a harder time to learn the ropes and adjust to, AI developments. So employers definitely want younger people, employees. But those younger employees are not just going to accept the next offer that they get. They want to be selective. They want to see whether, like, for example, this is something that has been a hot topic online, whether if you're getting paid just a fraction of what you were already making and your employer is offering you remote opportunity, Gen Z accepts it. But because, they think remote work is not messing with their work-life balance as much. And when it's in the opposite sense, the older generation wants to go work in the office, and they're gonna be able to, they want their compensation to be more. So this is the conflict that exists in the market, where Gen Z tends to think more about mental peace and their long-term stability at the job, and they're not like fully focused on staying and growing with the company. They're not going to stick around for 10 years. They're going to leave in like 2 years or so if they're getting a better offer elsewhere. Those, yeah, shifts of attitude and mindsets do exist.
Right. And so the marketplace or the job marketplace as it is right now, what do you think would be the biggest challenge that these people will face when they go there?
When it comes to challenges, I think what we really struggle to communicate is saying no when things are getting a little bit too overwhelming, or just communicating it in a proper manner too. Like, I don't have to reject something altogether. I can find a common ground and settle with my own terms as well. Like, say I wasn't a big fan of doing this podcast, but if I am negotiating my own terms with you, like My trade-offs, I have to understand what my trade-offs are. My trade-offs are seeing your face for more than an hour. My trade-offs are skipping any series that I would have watched right now and skipping on my sleep as well. So I am okay with these trade-offs as long as I am getting something out of this as well. I could get a good meal out of this from you. I could uh, get you to be my driver for the rest of the month. So as long as I know what the trade-offs are going to be and I am able to find that common ground, I have the ability to not completely reject that situation and find a common ground. So I think that's something that the people now really struggle with in the market. So these are the things I would say that learning how to say no and how to say no in a very tactful manner is something that they struggle with.
All right. I think we've covered everything that was to be covered in the agenda. Do you have any final takeaways or any final tips that you would like to give my students?
First, yeah, the key takeaways that we had throughout the session was, of course, ask no follow-up questions. Don't think that any question is a stupid question. Only if Sir Hisham's asking it, it's stupid. But secondly, yeah, don't have to take anything personally. Any situation you run into, it is always just going to be solvable. Nothing's the end of the world. You get bad grades, you flunk your exams, you can always retake them. You are not able to be accepted in your dream university, you're not able to, your visa gets rejected, you can always apply again. Same is the case with when you're dealing with corporate clients or internal teams. You mess up, you can always fix it later down the line. You just have to have that can-do attitude that I did mess up here. This is the solution that I have for it. These are what the next steps are going to look like. So kind of one thing I do is I put myself in the shoes of the person that I am dealing with. So I would be seeing things from their perspective, okay? Like, for example, although it's a unreasonable ask that I come in on Sunday, but this project really, like, what Sir Hisham's gonna get by calling me on Sunday? He probably has our best interest at heart.
Hmm.
So, yeah, just look at things from the other people's perspective and you're gonna figure out a lot.
All right. On that note, thank you so much, Visha, for joining us and sharing these insights with us. Really do appreciate it. And we appreciate your time. And just thank you. And I will see you later, hopefully.
Thank you for making me go through this torture.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.